Okay, so what kind of mindset did this produce in the mind of the African, basically? So what I did was I took some basic fundamental principles about African culture and philosophy, and I basically just put them on this page here, and each parable or quote is going to be followed by my personal interpretation of it. So this is a basic breakdown of the mindset that this kind of life produced in African people. And the first one says, the character of the African. What mindset it is produced in Africans? Quote, the African cosmos is like a spider web. Its least element cannot be touched without making the whole thing vibrate. Everything is connected, interdependent. This interconnectedness is conceived as a kind of vitalism or life force which pervades all of nature. Rocks, trees, lower animals, the heavens, the earth, the rivers, and particularly man, who is a vessel for this oneness which permeates and infuses all that is. This means I am because we are because I am. It's an African proverb. It can be summed up in that proverb. If we are anything, it is because of me, and if I am anything, it is because of you all. From the perspective of the individual, the life process is regulated by their submission to the rules of life. The person maintains their internal rhythm by the observance of certain basic ideas of self-respect and respect of others. Proper rituals and relationships that reinforce their connection with the tribe or the community renew the recognition of the universal life force that flows within and through the person as a whole. On a very concrete level, this is reflected in the considerable social orientation of African people. The very idea of isolation or seclusion among African people is synonymous with madness. The coming together and sharing with each other in a harmonious manner reaffirms a rhythmic flow between self and others. This means who you are as a person is not exclusive. Who you are is also defined by your relationship to others. If you are the most wonderful boy or girl in the world, but you are a terrible friend and no one can trust you, then you are not so wonderful. There are interesting parallels of this notion of coming together as a curative force in all parts of the world. During a time of illness, the traditional treatment of the person usually entailed the congregating of the tribe's herbalist along with a religious leader, a pastor for example, or an imam if you're Islam, the elders and the immediate members of the family, often to the accompaniment of drumming, a universal metronome, a rhythm, and chanting. The treatment was executed by group participation. Such a congregation often continued until health had been restored. So in other words, illness is not just medical, it is mental and spiritual, because when one side of yourself is sick, so are the other sides of you. You are mind, body, and spirit. Therefore, the herbalist healed your body. The religious leader or pastor or imam or religious leader heals your soul. And the elder heals your mind. You know, the elderly people, the ones who have been around here for a long while. So, what can we conclude so far? We can conclude that environment plays a major role in your development. And 2, environment influences your lifestyle. How is this possible? Well, here's one example that I decided to do throughout time. So, for example, if I were to take a group of people from their homeland, put them in a completely foreign place, well, probably not that foreign because, you know, some of their ancestors were over there, you know, through, you know, boats and other navigations. Basically, if I were to take a people and put them in a completely foreign land, completely foreign to them as far as they know, and subject them to slavery and malnourishment, and also do very dangerous psychological you know, maldevelopment in them, and then just throw the rest of their descendants into some type of slum, which eventually became known as the projects, you know, which eventually became known as you know, the hood, I guess you could say. And basically this would produce what we had said earlier, a survivor. I gotta get mine, I gotta make my paper, I gotta do my thing. it's hard out here for a brother. These are the types of mentalities that are produced in a place like this. Also, if you hear certain things in the background, I'm sorry. That's just a, little family staying with me for now. But anyway, you can see this brother on the top right or the bottom right corner. He has a hoodie on. He's not very trustworthy of the people that are around him, or the people that are around him are not very trustworthy. It looks like there are some type of candles in the background. Maybe there's some vigil going on for someone who had just passed. Maybe it was a friend of his. Either way, this short diagram shows that if you take anybody out of their natural environment, put them in an environment where they are malnourished, fed little food, and worked very hard, and then thrown into, the wilderness of society, or some area where there's very little food, and once again there's hardly no shops, no stores, no nothing, and you just leave them there, then what you have is somebody who turns out to be a survivalist, basically. People are not very nice. I have a hood, well, at least I had one where I was living when I was growing up, Crawford Village. It was basically the slums. It still is, and this goes to show that your environment influences your lifestyle. So we can look at this as African people and basically see the reason why we are in the mess that we're in. A lot of times we like to simply just point all the faults at ourselves, and really, it's not completely entirely our fault to take on. If I were to place you somewhere and expect you to survive, and the place is pretty terrible, you wouldn't just take all the blame on you, But that's beside the point. But we shouldn't take on any more blame than we should have to. And once again, the bottom line is that when environment does affect you. You need resources, you need food, you need clothing, you need shelter. If you do not have these things, it is very likely that this is all your mind will be on. This is why it's no wonder that the Africans that we were looking at before, when they had an abundance of things, they didn't have to worry about lack. They didn't have a word for that. They probably didn't have a word for abundance either, but they sure were living it. And once your mind is able to, relax above the, worry of survival, then, your mind begins to be a bit more imaginative and philosophical, and it begins to rise on other higher matters. Now that your body is taken care of, that you're going to survive and live. This is where I'm talking about the beginning of all things great actually happens. You have to take care of yourself. So this is where I live, and this is my environment. I've lived in Hazelwood for almost 2 years now, and I have built, my small little home from the ground up. I could definitely say that I had moved out with a friend, and this was in 2009, and eventually a job fell through. I was behind on rent. I really wasn't living that well, and believe me, at this time I was not thinking about great philosophical, wonderful things that could change the ideas of the world. No, I was thinking about surviving, and eventually I had to get my life together to, make sure I had an environment where I was, well taken care of. I had to take care of myself. So I had to move out with my sister. I moved there for 9 months, and eventually I saved up enough money from a job that I had gotten and started paying good enough where I was able to move out within 3 months. And the place you see now is the place where I've lived since July 5th, 2011. And now the exact opposite thing has happened to me. I've decided to create an environment. Well, first off, I had asked God that, please, if you would bless me with a place, I would be able to just house other people. I'd like to be a blessing to other people. And so God did. I have a 2-bedroom apartment for very cheap, very nice, white walls, tan carpets, big windows, nice living room, kitchen, everything. There's one other room that's missing, and that is my master bedroom. I didn't show it because I didn't feel like cleaning it up real quick. I just wanted to, get this done. So I say all this because I created an environment that would inspire imagination, that would make a person very relaxed, that would actually rest the minds of the individuals who come to my place, and that way it would help them to get some clarity in their lives. And I tried to create an environment that would usher in that type of thinking. If you ever notice, if you always saw Jesus going to prayer alone, you always saw Moses going up to some mountain, you always see all these wise people going somewhere far away in the mountains, in a place where they can get some clarity. And this is the way that I try to make my environment. And so when people don't have to worry about their next meal or anything, then they're actually able to focus on where they're trying to go. Do some internal inventory work on themselves, some intrinsic thinking on themselves, some self-reflection. This is a power of a stable, calm, tranquil environment. And I do believe it has a profound impact on children, adults, children in school who are trying to get wonderful grades, but the house or the place that they come home to is either dangerous because of the parents. It doesn't have any not much food where they can make a meal, so they're worried about what they're going to eat and whether they're going to be safe, or whether someone's going to be home, rather than thinking about their homework or trying to complete a certain task for school. And so this is my whole hypothesis on the beginning of all things great. I truly believe that environment is the soil ground for greatness. And that is what I try to use. I try to use this thesis for African history here. So I hope this makes a lot of sense. I'm not asking you to agree, but I hope that we can both understand. So the last and final slide is the Green Sahara. So basically, I'm not going to read this. Just know that around, just know that there was a period of desert, which was, its time of fertility. Another period of desert was a time of dryness. And then a third period was where the Sahara basically desertified in 4000 BC. And because of that, the Africans packed up and headed for the Nile. And this is where we're going to stop our lecture for the beginning of all things great. Next time, we're going to talk about the certain contributions and achievements that Africans had done, and we're going to trace all those achievements back down to Uganda. But I decided, for this presentation, to go a step before Uganda. So this is the reason why we went to the Green Sahara first. It's not like these people just all of a sudden woke up and they were brilliant. No, this lecture showed what made that brilliance. And my argument is none other than, you guessed it, environment. I hope this has brought some real clarity to, all people, but especially people of African descent. I hope this has been a blessing, and definitely look out for lecture number 2. Thank you.
You wanna know